So Cosmic, the question is, where did Qosmic Qadence, the name, come from?
Interesting. It was divine. Oddly enough, I started writing poetry in elementary school. I was introduced to poetry actually in second grade. It was not given to me in second grade. But I began to write extensively, second grade, then fifth grade, I was reintroduced and kind of introduced to Nikki Giovanni, Maya Angelou, Langston Hughes, a few others that were just incredible. And they stretched me as far as wanting to be a poet. But I put the pen down for many, many years after that. Honestly, didn't pick up the pen again until the year 2000. So elementary school in 2000 was like a really long stretch for me. And I picked up the pen again in the year 2000 to not write a poem. Oddly enough, I was trying to write my wedding vows, and they came out as a poem. And that was the first poem that I had written in a very, very long time. I think probably since like junior high. And that kind of started me back writing. So I wrote from that point on, maybe over the next 5 years, or 8 years, over the next 8 years, from 2000 to 2008, I wrote somewhere around 500 poems under the name The Poet 6, S-I-X-X. And then in 2013 it was, 2013 I decided this journey of like artistry was mine and I should just pursue my passion and my purpose. And I knew that it was tied to writing and writing poetry. Obviously I'd written all these poems and songs. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to publish poems and I'm just going to publish books and go around and speak and teach, and people are going to love me and it's going to be dope. But I knew that I couldn't do that under the Poet 6 because it just sounded silly at that point. I like literally chose the Poet 6 with a double X to signify my height being 6 foot 6 inches, like 6 doubled up. So it was so weird to me at that point of like, I was something to do. I was like, I can't have people like the Poet 6. That was weird. So honestly, I just began to soul search for another name, so another pseudonym to go by. And I woke up one Sunday morning, I'll never forget it, and I was in this really weird space of flux, and I understand like what was my next move. And I just walked away from the entertainment company that I was working for that brought me here from DC. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna be a poet and a writer, and it's gonna be dope, and I'm gonna call myself Qosmic Qadence. And it said, popped into my head, it was like Qosmic Qadence, and I was like, what the hell is that? And I Googled it, and the only thing that I could find, even with Qosmic with a C and Cadence with a C, the only thing that I found was this book that was written back in an album that was produced back in like 1971. I think a book kind of correlated with it, and that was it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So nobody's going by Qosmic Qadence. I was like, perfect, it's mine. And so that's kind of where it came from.
So a little bit of divine inspiration after leaving a media company. What happened with the media company? Like where were you mentally when you started? And then where were you, like, so obviously you were one place mentally when you ended. So where did you start to get to the place where Q comes out?
So crazy. I actually began working for that company in their call center. So I was making $10 an hour to answer phones for them, animated, and the company hosted a performing arts competition at Disney World 3 times per year for youth talent, actors, models, singers, dancers, kids who aspire to be as much. They had an opportunity at Disney World to get on stage in front of agents, managers, casting directors, music industry pros that could literally help to launch their desire into the stratosphere of a career. And so that work was really gratifying. Over time, I began to not just work in the call center, but there are levels to this. So I had advanced through the company from just call center worker to team leader supervisor first, then a co-manager of the call center, and then traveling with the company to do corporate presentation on the weekend, to do whatever was required of me. But I essentially wore so many hats. Travel manager, I did corporate presentations, I also did talent scouting for them, sales, and there's a few other different things. And I think that somewhere in that space of helping these youth discover what their ultimate passion was and to realize it, I just kind of got bit by the bug also. And I was like, wow, I'm watching these kids live early the fullness of a desire that they're manifesting, and that's like powerful. So I kind of got nudged into artistry.
Yeah. So the entire time you're working there, you're like developing the grind mode, and then you're also kind of seeing like, you know, like, there's a little bit more to this whole game. There's like kids out there. There's art.
There's people. They're human. I mean, they're adults. You know, not just the children. So they're even adults. Some of the parents, I would have conversations with them in the kind of mid spaces of either the child auditioning with us, you know, to potentially be invited to Disney World, or then to be in Disney World. So I was building a relationship with these parents as well. And what I was finding is that, well, not just the parents, but there would be brothers, older sisters, or whomever, grandma, grandpa, that would be connected to these children. I was starting to realize that a lot of these adults had the same gifts, or had their own set of gifts that they never used. And they would express to me how proud they were of their the child, and but having held onto their own thing. And I was like, yo, this world is suffering really because we're all holding onto stuff. And I could be touched by holding onto the gifts because I was holding onto all of mine. And I was like, wait, I'm gonna end up like them almost. And I was like, I have to live open. I have to live fully. There's got to be a better way.
This almost sounds like the foundation of Poetic Soul.
In essence, yeah.
Yeah.
It was born all through the vision, like
Yeah.
the vision for my life was probably given to me at 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I told God no. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to lead people. I don't want to be responsible for standing on stages in front of a sea of people. And I could just see this Martin Luther King image, and I was like, they assassinate those kinds of characters. I don't want. Give me something else. Give me another assignment. But I always knew that, of course, what was in me was bigger than just, you know, something that I would use to work a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just always had this sense that my life should be much bigger, or was going to be much bigger than it was, and it was based on the vision that I ran from as well.
And so it seems like you kind of accept the original call, and so yeah, how, like, I mean, I met you through just joining I Am Root and us, like, all kind of just interacting in the same little art group and art space, and, you know, we've kind of got to get to know each other a little bit. I mean, and you have that vibe, that leadership, that, like, that role, like, almost built into you. People vibe on you at that level, and so it's, I don't know, one, it's been dope watching you grow as an artist, you know, because, like, I mean, I saw him the first time, like, what, you know, no one sings in their poems, and I remember when you did that the first time. So
I remember you said, I remember watching you at first, bro, and I was like, what the fuck is he doing? It's really weird.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah, no, you sold me. I was like, you know, I thought this was gonna be weird, but as you did it, man. You expressed yourself, and I
appreciate
that's what I really appreciated about you. And so, like, what is it that you think about expression, right, that is important to human beings? Like when you've seen humans not express themselves, like, what are some of the things you've seen them run into?
You know what? I've been struggling with this space of epiphany for life. I know I can only go back, and I can only really speak to myself as experience, right? My own experience. And I know how I feel when I'm not expressing myself. So for me, if I'm not sharing my light, if I'm not sharing my gifts, if I'm not sharing my art, if I'm not singing to myself, if I go days without singing, my vibration is lower. I'm depressed, I'm in a weird, funky space, I'm complaining about everything, but when I give time to doing the thing that's me, it instantly raises my vibration. And then other people are drawn to me in that space. I'm just more jovial, more happy, I'm more me. So, you know, just using that as an example for myself, I know that it has to be similar for other people, because those other parents would express to me how they wouldn't use their gift. There's a lot of regret attached to that, sure, but there has to be something else, you know, that ruins or determines a person's mood and attitude through life, and not just through a day. So, yeah, for me, it's, I have to share. I'm at my best self when I'm sharing my gifts. And when I'm not, it's like death. It's like a slow death that I'm dying, because I'm just going through some mundane practice, like working a job, showing up every day to do a thing, and I can sprinkle magic on anything that I do. But the most effectual use of my magic is by sharing my gifts.
Yeah. What's that one moment where someone caught on that you were providing that, and they came up to you and they're like, Q, like, do you have that moment yet?
That I was providing what?
Like, they realized, like, you saved my life.
Oh, wow. You know, people people run up to us as artists and say amazing things like when we walk off stage. So I can't remember the first time that I heard that, but I remember the time that it was most overwhelming.
Yeah.
I performed the summer that Poetic Soul started, so Poetic Soul launched here in Phoenix, April 20th, 2016. Every Wednesday since we've been doing Poetic Soul.
Yeah.
So through that summer, which was, I want to say about July, I just had this crazy notion that I wanted to go into these other states and I wanted to stay in motion as an artist also. But I wanted to go to some of these neighboring states and cities that are close, like San Diego, like LA, like Vegas, where I just knew that incredible talent had to be. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go to San Diego. So I went to San Diego. I performed a few times in San Diego, taking different artists from down here with me, like PK the Poet, like Debo, like, oh my gosh, who else went with us? So many people traveled up with us, but on this cycle of going out, so I kind of built a relationship with a few of the artists in that community. And I remember maybe about the third time that we went out, or sometime in the fall it was, that we went out. We went back out to San Diego after having gone a few, taken some off, and just went back, and I was just so ready to just give San Diego everything this one particular night. And I remember probably about, first of all, the event was at the Queen Bees in San Diego. They host an incredible event called Lyrical Exchange every single Tuesday night. It's incredible. It's just an incredible experience. They bolster like the #1 slam team in the country and like all this stuff. They are next level. Shout out to Natasha Hooper and Rudy Francisco, who's like.
Reach up in the corner where they can point to a link.
What's that?
I'll reach up in the corner right here. Like just point in the corner, and I'll put a link up there.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Right
so
there.
yeah, Lyrical Exchange every single Tuesday night at the Queen Bees Arts and Cultural Center. It's a beautiful space. Shout out to Alma, who runs that space, curates a space for artists. She has a studio in there where artists can come and perform, come and record even. It's a really dope space, but a really dope community. And again, they bolster the #1 slam team in the country with just incredibly gifted poets that they all feed each other, and they're all inspired from each other. So it's beautiful, just a beautiful community building. But I remember that fall night after having performed, and they put over 100 people in the building. And I promise you, maybe 40 people, like in passing. I'm standing outside now on a cell phone talking to somebody about, like I just levitated up on stage, like holy shit. And probably like 40 people made their way over to me from a ways over to thank me for what I just did on stage and talked about how much I impacted them, how much they were gonna just like live out loud and not give a shit anymore because of like they've been holding on to so much and they should just do it. And it literally made me emotional. I was like, holy shit, like I touched a lot of people tonight. So yeah, I remember that moment as being like one that was kind of overwhelming. And I was like, yo, like what did I do up there?
Yeah.
Like what did I tapped into something that was just utter magic.
And so you mentioned PK the Poet in that, you know what I mean? You guys seem to have like a special connection. That's the only reason why I'm even asking this in your interview. You know, it's like, what is it about PK that you guys vibe so well on?
I don't know. It's almost like in a lot of ways we're the same person, you know. So I get a lot from my interactions with him. And it's a really funny story. Like when I first met PK, I met him at Dom's Loves event, April of, I want to say 2014.
Yeah.
May 2014. And PK walks up to me and he's like, yo, I'm PK the Poet, you know what I mean? Don't forget my name. I'm out here. I'm going to be out here.
Poet.
PK the Poet, you know what I mean? And he walks off. And I was like, what the fuck? Where'd you go? I was like, yo, come here. Let's talk. So I was drawn to his spirit, his energy. You know, then clearly he was just getting started as a rapper, like a poet, expressing himself the way that he does between the lyricism and just delivering poems. Just he's incredible. You know what I mean? So PK's been one of my closest friends. Like if I could say I had friends here, like PK's top of the list.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of my friends here, and it's just that we've been able to connect on a level of vision, like what's for us, what we see, and then kind of strategically putting things in place to make it happen. So I'm really close to him for that reason. We've watched each other like level up in spaces and try things and enact things, not necessarily just trying it, but just putting things into place that work. And it's like, yo,
Yeah.
So it's an inspiration to that.
I mean, I see it. I think it's a special relationship, which I think is worth mentioning, which I have. Are there any other relationships right now that you have with someone similar that you would like to like mention or bring up, you know, that are important
There's so
to you?
many people.
Talk
So
about
many
some of
artists
them.
that I'm connected to, but of late in this space, I've gotten really close with Jay Tatum, who's traveled with me. She's
Massive fan
photographer
of
for
Jay
Poetic,
Tatum.
so oh my God, she's photographer for Poetic Soul. She wears the hat of photographer for Poetic Soul Phoenix. But clearly, like one of my favorite poets on the planet, just amazing. Like I listen to Jay's stuff, and I'm just like, I gotta fucking write. I need to get back. You know, I need to write some more stuff. And, so Jay's really special to me. She traveled back and forth with us also to LA, you know, in the interim to launch LA, helping out with that too, from a photography standpoint and from hopping on stage. Kyla Shea Draper is just incredible. Another one of these poet, singer, magical people, rap. She just do whatever she wants to do. So she's a really incredible person who's come into my soul space as of late that I've been working with, and I feel like I'm vested in like helping these people just levitate as high as they can possibly do so if I can help, like by sharing resources or sharing experiences of my own and say, yeah, I tried that. So if you're going to try it, don't try it exactly like that. You may want to add some stuff to it. So, and those people do the same thing for me. They feed me ideas and additional guidance as we go. So,
Yeah. Well, how about this? We'll, you know, those are the first ones off the top of the head.
Sure.
They're no more important than anybody else. But are there people, like family members, that you would like to thank right now? You know what I mean? Like, interviews are a great place to get one of those, like, hey, grandma, you know
what?
or
So thanks, grandma. Is now I have it. Thanks, like real life. Thanks to my grandma who would not let me quit. I tried to give up on poetry and tried to give up on everything. In December of 2015, I went back home to visit her, and she's like slowly getting around her house now, up and down the stairs. She's like 80 plus years old at that point. I'm like someone needs to be walking up and down the stairs behind her to make sure she's okay.
Yeah.
She's gonna fall at some point. Like, this is not safe. It's taking her forever. I mean, like one step at a time. Like it's taking her too long. And I remember sitting in her living room watching her get back down the stairs so that she could get to the back porch where her favorite, you know, shows were being played on her TV. And when I was sure in my mind that this was like the thing to do, I got up from the living room and walked out into her den, and I was like, so I've decided I'm not going to go back to Arizona. And she said, what? And I was like, I'm not going to go back to Phoenix. Somebody needs to be here to take care of you. I'm just going to stay here. And she looked at me and said, you can't stay here. She said, you've outgrown this place. Go back and finish what you started in Arizona. And I was like, what are you saying? What? And she just grabbed the remote control and turned the TV volume back up, so she was like not hearing anything at that point. And I remember getting up and walking back into her living room. I just sat there like, did she just tell me that I wasn't welcome here? Like, what? And I just started crying.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to quit, and she wouldn't let me quit. She said, go back. And she had no clue what I was doing here, what I'd done. But I liken that instruction of hers, obviously knowing me and knowing of the things that maybe she gave up on in her life. She just sensed it as a moment that I was trying to quit, and she wouldn't even let me do that for her.
Yeah.
So that was so powerful. I did thank her for that before she passed away as well. But to say it on the interview was pretty dope. Thanks to my brother, my brother Kareem, my brother Eben, my sister Lakita, my dad, my best friend from back home, Frank, my buddy Marquis, my auntie Diane, and whomever else fits into this category. But I want to thank those people for me as I put everything out there on the line to say, yo, I'm gonna be a poet. I'm gonna walk away from this job. I'm not gonna work a job anymore. I'm just gonna figure this out. I want to thank those people for helping me monetarily where they could to help keep a brother going. Like that's like no man or woman is an island. We need the help of other people. So I appreciate them for extending themselves that way. Say if they didn't have bills of their own or things of their own that they need to take care of. So yeah,
That's awesome. And is there anyone else you want to thank at all?
Yeah. I'm gonna thank my children also. Thomas and Ryan for being patient. Being patient with my crazy. As I've sought to obviously create a career for myself inside of a lane that was incredibly precarious and filled and laden with all these uncertainties. I want to thank them for being in my corner to really give me that support to know that I could do it and get things done.
Yeah. And so you mentioned a couple times, these people have supported you in what you are doing. So here's the question.
What am I doing?
What are you doing?
At this point, I am living to bring to life like the craziest, most unimaginable for most people things that I could possibly come up with. So what I've been doing around around just being an individual artist is creating platforms for other people to shine on and for these collaborative spaces for us to kind of get together and share life. Excuse me. And the ultimate goal for me is to create the largest platform that we could ever hope to stand on in front of the kind of people that we are typically numbered in at these major concerts for Jay-Z, Beyonce, blah, blah. I want indie artists to be able to stand on stage in front of people who genuinely love and appreciate what they're giving for that. And the first few events that I hosted here, the first event that I hosted here in Phoenix was Friday Night Lights a couple years ago. And first event had 105 people. It was like, oh, this is dope. But we were doing this artist invite everybody thing. So I was profit sharing with the artists at the door. So I was doing this profit sharing thing at the door with the artists. And I realized very quickly that some artists are just artists, They're not business minded. They're not promoters. They don't know how to they don't know how to promote themselves. And I was like, wow. So the subsequent events were just like, we got a bunch of people, maybe. And I realized that every artist can't promote that way. So that wasn't the way to build an audience. I needed to figure out how to tap into the community here to get them to love what we do. I knew that the artists that I was choosing for the events were incredible. And Am Root, shout out to Dom. Dom was on the first show. On that night that we had some crazy. Actually, Dom captured footage of me. And I was just like, I still have it on my Dropbox from that night. But yeah, so essentially, and in effect, again, my mission is to just figure out how to get us in front of the community, the people who obviously go to concerts and love listening to the artists sing and rap and poets, etc. But how do we get them to love us here in this local market? So it's been a really fun journey to genuinely connect with the community to draw them out. And that's what we've done with Poetic. So
what are some of the things you've learned? Like one of the things you said you've learned was that some of the artists aren't that good at promote. Like they're just not, the mentality that they need to maybe do what you're trying to do isn't there. So what are some of the other things that you've learned or some advice that they could use?
Be open to learn. Be open to learning how you can be the business. Be a business. All of us, like, one of the silliest things in my mind is that artists starve. So there's this notion of starving artists, which is so crazy to me because everything around us is art. Like everything that has been designed is art. It's all art. So how are artists starving? Like it doesn't make sense to me. And so that it does make sense to me. Rather, it makes sense to me that if you do not figure out how to monetize your own art, there's somebody else out here waiting to do so. So you have to understand how to make money off of what you do. It's not to say that money's the only thing. I hear artists say this all the time. Like, I necessarily want to make money for it. It's my art, it's my gift. And I'm saying, sure, okay, I hear that. But money is attached to your purpose, and money is attached to your gift. And again, if you don't figure out how to get it, someone else is going to exploit you. So you can have take the highest ground you could possibly take to say, I don't want any money for this. God gave it to me. It's like, okay, cool. God didn't give it to you for you to struggle with it either. You know, so God didn't give it to you for you to hide it and only use it every now and then as you work on a job, hiding from the thing that is you. So, yeah. So while you're working for somebody else doing something else silly, you could be working towards your purpose, using your gift to bless other people, and then you be taken care of because of that. Compensated monetarily to be a extremely filthy rich person, maybe not, but maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is you use your gift of singing, you use your gift of poetry, you use your gift of lyricism, storytelling, just motivating people. Maybe that's enough to just sustain you so that you can pay your bills and live out the best possible existence, giving everything that you can to that. And not wasting your time spinning your wheels on some job.
I mean, that's something that I try to point to people a lot and try to explain to them, like that there's another, like, you want to watch concerts your whole life, maybe just being the janitor at the best stadium in America would be, you know, you might have time to watch your concert. You know, if you have a 9 to 5 that you're working an extra 80 hours a week, you get to go to the concert.
Right.
You know, and so where do you see Arizona art going, given your interaction with it? Because it was at one place. Do you think you've made it a better place?
In the space that I function in, I think so. And I don't think that it's a individual thing. So I don't think that any of us have a cap on like, oh, when this person showed up, or when these people finally emerge, it's going to be. I don't think that it's that. I think that it's everybody doing their part. So I've mentioned Dom already, but shout out to people like Dom, who have been very intentional and consistent with building platforms and bringing people into spaces where arts and culture can be developed like a little more. And I benefited from those spaces. So I came into Dom's event. I said this on Friday, that I was able to come into his spaces and look around and say, wow, here's one person who just kind of is there to think outside the box or to live outside the box, to not be confined by a box. He's having this upscale open mic. People are dressed up and cocktail attires. Like, this is amazing. And I was like, he's young, you know, so he gets it. He's just living inside of the space of his imagination. And he almost gave me permission to do so as well. Seeing him do it here, I was like, cool, it's okay for me to do that also. So yeah, I don't think that I think that the arts and culture scene is definitely growing, you know, by leaps and bounds, but that's not because of us. There are a lot of people who came before us who helped to kind of put some things in place and to kind of keep us on point too. So shout out to those people as well.
Who are some of these other people in the Valley who are helping with the art movement? Like, who are some people who, like, you personally you like to work with, or some people you don't get a chance to work with who provide a lot?
I mean, folks like Ashley Hare, who served as arts and culture director for the city of Phoenix for a few years. She's incredible. She does a lot to try to activate art in spaces that aren't your typical spaces where poetry, etc. will be done. There's HB, Harold Branch, the third.
Shout out HB.
Yeah, shout out to HB. My brother, who's responsible for Home Base Fame. The Home Base Open Mic, that's been a staple of arts and culture here in Arizona for 9 years. Legendary.
That was the first place I ever performed. Here.
Legendary. 9 years is no sneeze. So shout out to HB. A lot of other artists who are doing things to not just be art, to not just be artists, but also to enrich the community and the youth, like Tamika Lamb, let's see whom else that I've been directly connected with in terms of doing workshops, like with the kids in schools. So, my sister Arian Nicole, who's working to develop some things around arts and culture and the youth, done work with the youth, etc. here as well. Shout out to Cultivating Culture Open Mic. So I have to make sure that I mention them. Cultivating Culture Open Mic was one of the most consistent open mics for the longest time. It took place on this Monday night like clockwork, and they were the place that I was able to come to as a poet to utilize their platform to just kind of kick the tires and knock the cobwebs off and work through the weirdness of performance and figure out my voice and find my place on stage. Yeah, so Cultivated Culture was another dope environment. Shout out to Main Key and Ray Francie and some of the others who are a function of that. DJ Scapegoat, and, DJ DN3, and like some of the others. Kite 93 hosts, so it sounds like the floodgates are opening for some people.
That's good.
And also Phoenix Center for the Arts. So not just Phoenix Center for the Arts, but shout out to Joseph Benish, but Lolly, I can't neglect Lolly, and also Flipside, who kind of collabed on this beautiful experience called Infuse Open Mic, which takes place at the Phoenix Center for the Arts. I think it has been for the last 6 years or something like that. So they're another staple of arts and culture here, just doing it right and giving space for people to be open, to be community. That Infuse Open Mic was the very first place that I ever performed at. Actually, I celebrated 15, 16, 4 years as a performing artist. Just this past July 13th, I was reminded, like, July 13th is the first time that I ever got on stage and performed poetry, and it was at Infuse Open Mic. I remember being so ready to perform. So I was just happy. I looked it up and saw Open Mic. I was like, that one, I'm just gonna go. And that space was very warm and very welcoming, and that's still home. That will always be my first home for poetry here in Phoenix, is that Open Mic.
So this is going to be the first hard question so far. You've talked a lot about community, and there's a lot of people's names you've mentioned in this thing. So could you riff philosophically about community for a little bit? Like, how important is it? What does it look like to you, and what does it mean? Like, where we're at with community, and like maybe what the future of our community looks like.
I think that community is such a loaded word. So a lot of times, as I mention community, and I thank people, for instance, when I say the day after every Poetic Soul event on Wednesdays, I post a thank you to the community. I'm speaking to the community that is and has become support for Poetic Soul. And then that is taking whatever they gain from being a functional part of this community out into the broader community on that scale. I think that community is so vast that sometimes people hear the word community, and because it doesn't align with what they believe community to be, they say, well, that's not building community, or that's not community. You're not doing anything for the community. I'm really doing this. It's all community building. I feel like there are a lot of different factions in community that you bring together to make, what's the word I'm searching for here? To make the overall community better.
Yeah, like the concept work.
To make it fully work. For me, community signifies togetherness. Community signifies collaboration. Community is having a sense of peace and safety and comfort in being together, being connected, taking care of one another. So it's a lot of different layers in that as far as community is concerned. With where I see community going in Arizona, it's a beautiful thing that's taking place here. There is a literal Phoenix Renaissance happening all around us, and I feel like, even as I think back to like maybe some of my favorite documentaries and taking a look at some of those, and realizing that when you're in the moment, you don't realize how special the thing truly is. I mean, you say, man, this is really special, this is dope, but it's impossible for us being in the trenches to fully take a step back and enjoy it. I know at least it is that way for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really doing this for look at what has happened. I am literally sold out on this vision that keeps morphing into something new every time I, boldly step out to say I'm going to live out this part of the vision. But all of that stuff in my mind speaks to where community is headed. I think that the overall community here in Arizona is in a very good place. It's like really building. People are finally understanding, in my mind, the idea of actually working together and taking that beyond idea and actually now actively seeking spaces to come together and to work together. And that's beautiful, because I feel like that wasn't here when I got here. I was searching for these spaces that weren't just open mic. So the artists are loving each other, but the people were detached from.
Yeah.
Now it's all of it coming together. It's kind of just snowballing perfectly. It's beautiful.
Yep. And so, what are some things that are toxic to community, and what are some of the things that you think are positive to community? If you're someone trying to participate in one.
Right. I would probably say ego is the most toxic thing to community.
How so?
Not, or rather, trying or working to make everything about yourself as an individual, or about this particular group of people in the community, as though somebody's better than somebody else. Like all that stuff that we get caught up in. I think that celebrity kills community. Oddly enough, our idea of celebrity kills community. This idea of praising people like just destroys community. I think that we can be happy and excited for people, and we can respectfully acknowledge what people have done without taking them and saying you're a star, because a star is way fucking out there, bro.
Yeah.
And if I tell you that you are way fucking out there, you're like untouchable, and then all of a sudden I'm putting you on this pedestal that is larger than life. And the instant you, Travis White, have a philosophy that I disagree with, all of a sudden you're no longer a star worthy. I'm like, who the fuck is this idiot? But you did that. You created this expectation for this person. It's like they're out there in the stratosphere. Like, we shouldn't do that to people. It's not fair, you know. So I think that those kinds of things disrupt community in a toxic way, and we have to figure out more ways to keep us all grounded in this space of like we're all equal, and we can all come together and just make the most amazing things happen as long as we stay out of this. Well, I deserve this because I've been here doing it for 40 years, and I'm like, you don't deserve this entitlement. It's just like, it's so toxic. It's so toxic. So,
Yeah. And so, what are some of the positive things that you see people who participate in community do?
Again, they have this spirit of collaboration and togetherness. They're open to hearing what the community is asking for also, and then figuring out ways to collectively work toward that. I think that some of the things that are positive to community also are people who are just innovative in thought, be it from an event creation standpoint or from a leadership standpoint, saying these are things that have been done already, but let's not stay in this mode of doing things. Let's be a bit more creative and try this, you know. Also, let's try to encourage people to be more active politically in this way, instead of telling people that like policies are all fucked up and politics are all trash anyway, so none of us should vote. And it's like, well, that's silly, you know, because unless we get it on the inside and we work from the inside out, how we ever change it, you know. So it's those kinds of things that I feel like speak positively to community.
Yeah. And what's some lessons from your life that or a moment in your life that really, really drove some of these points home? Toxicity and positivity.
I think probably in my own space of managing people, like every job I've ever had, I've always been promoted to like a supervisor or a manager in some degree. So I got a chance to kind of learn how to deal with people in this space of managing resources around me and trying to create a culture of togetherness around the mission for the job. Like, those things are important. If we can have a mission to build a house, unless we have a culture of togetherness and an ideal of how to work collectively together to build this house, man, these windows are going to be all off. The whole schematics out the window, literally out the window. This place is going to look like shit. So the area that I grew up in DC was also this neighborhood that I grew up in, rather, where I was raised, was called Stronghold. Stronghold, the word stronghold means fortress. So shout out to everybody in Stronghold, still there today. So that fortified community, not physically, but fortified in the hearts of people and their intentions, taught me everything that I could ever need to really know about community, or demonstrated for me everything that I could have possibly ever needed to know about community, because it was literally people working together, pooling resources, sharing everything that they had to keep the community solid, to take care of the constituents of the community.
And we're getting closer to the end. We have right about 8 minutes left. So, what's a moment from your life that you would love to share right now with just people, so they can kind of know you a little bit better? Like, it's like, man, it's like, you're going home and you're like, man, fuck, I just wish people knew this about me, so they wouldn't do that. Like, well, is there anything like that?
I would probably wish that people didn't like we're so prone to do, that they didn't think that I have it like all figured out, and that I'm like I have it all together. That's not true. I would wish that people would not use social media to follow and sensationalize these people again that we have affixed this piece of celebrity to, because consciously and subconsciously it forces you to compare your life to theirs. I just wish that people would put their heads down after turning the TV off, put their heads down collectively or individually and try to figure out exactly what we could do to work together as it pertains to me specifically. Don't make Qosmic like a celebrity. Don't treat Qosmic like a celebrity. I'm not. I'm a regular person, bro. I'm a human being. I'll sit down and talk concepts and ideas and progression of people all day, every day. You know what I mean? I'm not a celebrity here. I'm just doing some extraordinary things based on what I've seen in my head and everybody sees. As far as my life, what I want people to know is that I'm not perfect. I have a literal history of I did 7 years in prison. It's a part of my actual life story. I grew up in the hood, you know what I mean? So people hear the way that I speak. I make a concerted effort to speak grammatically like clear so that you can hear and understand what I'm trying to articulate. Yeah, I'm from the hood, bro. I'm a product of public schools. Like all of these things.
Do you want to get into that a little bit? We've got a little bit of time
into prison?
Yeah, how do we do that? How do we get there?
Bad decisions. So I made a terrible decision, obviously, which I don't know that we could cover it in 8 minutes.
We'll just leave it for we'll open it up for part 2.
Yeah, cool.
We'll get real deep in part 2.
No worries. A terrible decision led to an incident that had me incarcerated, or saw me sentenced to a term of incarceration of 8 years in prison for aggravated assault and mayhem, of all things. How do you explain away mayhem? Aggravated assault is always not bad enough, so a double felon, all at one time. Served this term of imprisonment or incarceration. In that space, I actually found myself, again, when I talked about writing these 500 plus poems or what have you, it was the silence of prison that gave me the space to tap back into my creative side. And I literally found myself or reconnected with myself through that trial. But 7 years on the inside, going through all that for me, what was that like? And people might say, like, oh my gosh, I met Qosmic. There's no way. Like, how did he make it? It must have been terrible. Like, I was fucking king in prison. Because I'm the same person everywhere I go. So I'm a man, I'm a stand-up guy. And I was afforded that much respect from people that are watching the video who are incarcerated with me. They'll tell you I'm not lying. I was afforded that same respect from every man that I encountered in prison, as well as the guards, the staff. Like, everybody treated me with a level of respect that was king, because I functioned commanded.
And so it seems like that experience almost lays down the foundation for who you are today. Like, I mean, obviously it's going to, but it's like how I carry myself matters.
Right. It's true. In that space in prison, actually, so I did have an opportunity to facilitate an inmate peer-to-peer group with a bunch of other incredible individuals. Shout out to Roach, Rozier T. Brown, Gerald Marshall, Stuart Anderson, Robert Levy, and some of the other guys that I was able to really connect with in that space and grow. Having the opportunity to connect with those brothers there literally taught me how to build community and to build community with like-minded individuals, with like-spirited individuals. It taught me how to mobilize an entire community that I wasn't necessarily connected to, but who understood because of how I function that I was a kind of a person that you align yourself with. So it really taught me how to literally organize and strategically get people in a position to just move based on something that was stated to them. So passion that was used. All of that I used here on Arizona soil to get a Senate bill vetoed by the governor. So I'm like, I learned all these things in prison. And I was able to come here to say, if it works in prison, I know it'll work out here. So I was totally sold on the strategic manner of working and doing things and collectively just believing that it would work and just taking the steps to do so because of my experiences.
Yeah. I mean, again, you're not the type of person people would guess you've gone through that type of experience. And I think the reason why is because, which is something that I try to get across to people, I don't think you let bitterness and resentment rule your life.
No.
Yeah. And so, well, do you have anything to say on bitterness and resentment?
It's cancer. There are things that we've all gone through that have for better or for better shaped us to be the people that we are today. It can be no worse. Like, we've all gone through things. Some of us have gone through things that are just, oh my gosh. But the problem is we're comparing ourselves to our situations in a lot of cases, and we're just like, oh, it's the most horrible thing ever. And it just destroys you. It knocks you off balance. So you cannot allow the bitterness of a thing that you've gone through to keep you stagnant. You went through that thing yesterday, and it was supposed to make you, or you went through it because it was supposed to make you aware of the kinds of people to deal with, the kinds of decisions that are terrible decisions for yourself to be made, or to get into a space of making better decisions, to living your life in a different way, not associating yourself with these kinds of people, or allowing these kinds of situations to knock you off kilter. You know, a lot of the things are controlled, like a lot of the things that we attract to ourselves, all of the things that we attract to ourselves are all vibrational. So it's all vibrational energy that's just coming out. You allow bitterness to rule in your soul space, you're only going to draw bitter people and bitter situations to yourself. So I realized that very early, that if I stay in this negative, stinky space, I'm going to draw negative, stinky individuals to me. Like, oh, step on my shoe. Somebody's going to come and step on my shoe. Not because they think I'm a punk, but because I just said I wish somebody would come. I'm wishing them into my space by having this energy, like, I step on my foot. I'll do all of that stuff. But if all day long I'm carrying that, I'm going to attract it.
Yeah. And so, what are you wishing for now, and what are you trying to attract?
Yo, I am living to literally bring bring the most crazy that I could possibly imagine into the space of reality, because I've done it on so many small scales, and I've done it, and I've timeline my life and look back. I'm like, yo, I was just kind of toying with the magic here. Anything is possible. And nobody's going to tell me no, because I'm just painting a vision. If I come in and talk to you and I paint a vision, I'm going to say no. How can you tell me no? You're saying no, what? The vision hasn't even happened yet. I'm not asking you for permission to bring the vision into reality. I'm saying, do you want to partner up on this thing? That's it, bro.
Yeah.
That's how I live and function. So I'm living for that. I'm never motivated. Fuck, money is not even real. Money is shit.
Yeah.
The idea is gold.
Yes.
The
Wow, chemical gold.
The idea for the pyramid made the pyramid. That's why the pyramid is still standing. It's that plan, putting it together. That's why. It's not about the amount of money or effort that it took to build it. The motherfuckers still stand. A whole lot of them. So
Across the world in every continent.
so that's the thing for me. It's just like, I want to imagine the unthinkable. And just in my day and age, I'm not commissioned to build a physical pyramid. At least God hasn't given me that vision. I like to say, duplicate it or build something better. I'm just saying, with my life, I want to build pyramids. I want to leave some stuff here that lasts forever, and not just because I started them, but because I have the capacity to do so, just like the ancestors that built the pyramids. No different.
Hey, it's been 50 minutes. I told you. You're like, does it be? Yeah. So, hey, I want to build with you. I think that you're a truly special person. I think we've come in contact for a reason. This is the end of introduction to Qosmic Qadence.